Here are 23 and a quarter reasons to play nothing but Guild Wars 2. Core Tyria is now free to play, meaning that you could play PvP, World v World, do that map completion. Everything that you wanted to do that was in the base game is now free to play, so there's no harm in trying it. The soundtrack, we have to talk about the soundtrack. It was made by Jeremy Soule and McLean Deemer. Lana Chappelle had a hand in it. So many people went in to make these soundtracks, and they're all amazing. Going from the Heart of Thorns all the way into Core Tyria, it's all brilliant. Guild Wars 2 has an absolutely stunning art design with beautiful architecture and brilliant lore woven into the game and its content. The world is living in Guild Wars 2, and the way that you could see this is like, I walked up to a castle door, and I just sat there, and I looked down, and what I see is this little scrit just runs in, steals some shit, and I see a guard chasing him all the way away. It was beautiful. The map of Guild Wars 2 feels fluid and complete. Completing the map doesn't feel like a burden because of the gameplay that you do combined with the rewards of a map makes for a really satisfying experience. Quests in Guild Wars 2 are handled in a very unique fashion, that they are all automatically accepted at the start of the game, and each one has a few options on how you can complete it. It's more like someone needs help, and there are several ways that you can help that any one given person. There are 9 unique feeling classes in the game, all with different abilities and sets of traits, and they have special customizations for each one, so you could tailor your own class to be what you want. Guild Wars 2 uses very complex combat mechanics for combinations between abilities, and for each weapon that you have, you can swap off to another preset weapon on your character. Your weapons determines the skills on the left side of your hotbar. There's also underwater combat in the game, so when you go underwater, you have a new set of weapon systems. So there's spear and tridents, and you go down there and you can fight creatures under the water. So if you ever wanted to fuck up a jellyfish, now's your chance. The game has traits and specializations for every character, so when you're sitting there designing your character, it feels nice because maybe I have a necromancer that stays into a lich form for longer, or maybe I have a necromancer that heals his allies and actually tries to act like a support class. There's different things that you could do with each type of class. There are many different game modes to Guild Wars 2. There's no one specific way to play the game. PvP is a game mode that is 5v5 with leaderboards and a very competitive scene. It takes a lot of skill to be the best at PvP, but it's not hard to just jump into PvP. World v World is another game mode that is a massive 3-server battle that has castles and keeps that you take control of and you try to defend, and you also can go and siege the enemy. And when it's all said and done, depending on how well you did in World v World, you give your server a bonus for winning. So everyone's rooting for you. Dungeons are a small 5-man content that takes you through a lore-riddled area of the game with special challenges and different paths for each dungeon. So each dungeon can have a route, so there's like 3 dungeons in just one of them, because there's so many paths you can take. Next up we have Fractals, which are 5-man content that are more of like an ever-evolving dungeon, with loot and difficulty increasing with each and every one that you do, and it takes you through the history of Tyria itself. Next up we have Raids, which are 10-man content that brings the baddest bosses and loot Guild Wars 2 has to offer to the table. World bosses are another type of content in the game, and they just spawn in areas across the world in given places at given times that takes an entire plethora of allies to take down and kill them. And when you kill them, they give you some loot. There are even 3 world bosses in the world that are extreme, like a flying undead dragon, or my personal favorite, 3 giant worms, which doesn't really sound scary, but trust me, it gets pretty tense. You know how much I've been saying loot, and I keep saying loot so often? It's because the whole game is about loot. I mean, you get loot for days, loot for years. There's so much loot to be had in the game, it's insane. Every system in game mode I've just talked about, like PvP, World v World, Dungeons, Fractals, Raid, World Bosses, exploring the world, all of that gives you loot. Like, there are reward tracks for doing things in the game. If you complete a map, then you get another reward. You get rewards permanently on that map every time you farm there. There's just like everything that you do in the game probably gives you an item as loot. And then you could take all this loot that you just got and you could go up to a vendor and have them buy stuff. Or you can go to a craftsman and make your own weapons and armor at a crafting system, which looks intimidating to get into, but it's really not. You just choose a profession and then you just go in there and you make what you want. If you want to make a hilt to make a weapon, you do that. It's simple. There are jumping puzzles in Guild Wars 2, and there are also several mini games. So you could walk up to someone, they'll say, oh, do you want to play this game where I throw you on ice and beat you up with beer? And then you say, sure. I mean, your character is also a living fossil. Everything you do in the game gives you an achievement. You just killed a rabbit and you critical hit it for like 3 million damage? Okay, you got an achievement. You walk down the street and help some dude? Boom, achievement. There's achievements for everything in the game, and some people get just addicted to actually getting these achievements and working up their AP. The community for Guild Wars 2, for especially starting players and players that have just like low AP in general, is one of the friendliest I have ever seen. Like, people will actually make parties and label it like, hey, if you have questions about the game, please join, I'll help you. So you could join them, talk about it, or you could look up guides. I mean, this community is very friendly when you are starting out. Guild Wars 2 is in an ever-evolving state, and there's always a patch around the corner, so you really want to keep up with news and stuff to just see what's being added and all the cool things that you could see the next time that you go to play. Now we start talking about a few of the pay-to-play stuff. So if you pay for the game, you get the benefits of gold to gem trading. So pretty much if you wanted to buy things like Living World or something, you could totally just farm it in game and just change your gold to gems. Gliding is amazing in every way. Like, it was just added to World v World, and you could fly into a war zone, and you could use it in PvE. So if you're on a mountaintop, you could just like jump off, get to like these very interesting areas, and it feels like just a fluid mechanic, and it just feels really fun to do. And the one thing I really know you guys wanted to do, but you really just weren't that sure about, is you can threaten a crab into submission, no wrestling required. By the way, all of this is with no monthly subscription, so you get it, it's yours. No hassle. I hope this video got the ball rolling for you guys to just see if like you want it, or maybe you should try it. The game is free after all. There's no harm in always joining it and then quitting it. So, I'd give it a try.